Hello 3D printer friends. I'm here today with the Ender 3 S1 3D printer. This is the new big brother of the Ender series. So in the Ender lineup you have the Ender 3 version 2, the Ender 3 Neo, and the Ender 3 S1. And the S1 is the new higher end version in the Ender series that comes with the direct drive as opposed to the boat and tube and extruder. Let's go ahead and open this up, put it together, set it up, and see what the hubbub is all about. And I have the official Creality 3D printing toolkit, but I would like to build this as much as possible with the tools that come with it, because that's probably what you'll be doing, but you don't have to. You can get tools of any kind, tools of your choice, or you can grab the Creality 3D printing kit, which is a fairly comprehensive toolkit. It comes with most of the tools you'll be using to work with your 3D printer. For extra fun, I bought this printer from a company that handles returns. In other words, somebody returned this printer, probably because they couldn't make it work because they didn't educate properly on 3D printing. So I always suggest you educate properly by taking a Udemy course called 3D Rundown. You might recognize the instructor. He looks something like me. As usual, Creality ships their products without packing. So the printer has actually been shipped directly in the box that holds the printer. So this is the printer's box, not a shipping box. I think this is a terrible idea, and I think Creality and other people should stop doing it. Inside we've got a bunch of foam. We have a warm tip. We have a warm tip which says retraction speed 35 to 45 millimeters a second. Retraction distance for rigid materials should be 0.8 for such as PLA, and retraction distance for a direct drive for soft materials such as TPU should be 2 millimeters. So it's interesting that they include this tip in the box. Maybe they should release a Cura profile that we can import into Cura and other slicers such as the Prusa slicer to do the settings they want. So right off the bat, I can see that it looks brand new. That's usually the case. It looks like it was never even opened or put together. So I'm thinking we have ourselves a brand new printer here. These are tools and small parts. Here is filament spool, and this is a filament runout sensor, looks like. Not a big fan of those. Here we have the new legendary Sprite extruder. This thing can be installed on your Ender 3 Pro, Ender 3 version 2, Ender 3 Max. Looks to be in good shape. One thing you'll notice is it comes with the CR Touch right out of the box, and it's already mounted to the hot end. This is the handle that the filament will be mounted to. And underneath door number 2, we have got the screen. I can see some fingerprints on it. So this was in fact set up at one point, this printer, and someone had no idea how to use this printer and returned it. Listen guys, if you go to Home Depot and you buy a hammer and nails and wood, and it doesn't matter the brand, if you buy Snap-on tools, you take it home and you throw it on the lawn, it doesn't build a house by itself. And you take it home, you can't just magically build a house or a shed. You can't do it. You have to educate, right? You can't go buy a Snap-on wrench and socket, $200 tools each, and then magically you're a mechanic and you can fix cars. You can't magically build houses. You can't magically 3D print. You've got to learn how to use your tools. It's a skill, it's a trade, it's an art. Okay? Yeah. So that's why a lot of these printers get returned, and I scoop them up and make tons of money off them. Okay. Slide out this piece of foam and toss it aside. There's the 3D printer bed right there. I can see that it has in fact never been printed on. This is a brand new sheet, so very exciting. Guys, don't be afraid to buy used 3D printers. 99% of the time there's nothing wrong with them. People just refuse to educate, they don't know how to use it, and they return it. Or some people buy them for their kids and whatnot, they're not interested, and they've never been used at all. This print bed right here, never been used at all. This printer is as good as brand new. So this is tricky. We are going to carefully remove components. These are big, heavy components. They have pulleys and wires and belts. I'm gonna be really gentle. Make sure nothing's plugged in or connected before you start yanking it out. And we're just gonna set this aside. Now we're gonna remove the actual printer bed itself, which of course also has a ton of foam attached to it. So I just want you to feel it. You're gonna feel how the foam is, if it's underneath or next to it. If it's next to it, you can pull it out. If it's underneath, you're gonna leave it there and pick it up with the printer. So there we go. I was able to remove this, exposing the entire print bed. So now we can pull this print bed out. And there it is, the Ender 3 S1 print bed. Let's put it together. Before we get started, you can have a good look at the bed right here. So this is the same bed as the S1 Pro. So the S1 Pro have the same size bed, as does the Ender 3 Pro and the Ender 3 version 2. If you want a bigger size bed, you're going to want an Ender 3 Max, Ender 3 Neo Max, or an Ender 3 S1 Plus. Yeah, it's very interesting that they went that route with the S1. But the Max for the S1, it's not called the Max, it's called the Plus. So this is a 220 by 220 bed, and the Max, Max Neo, and S1 Plus have a 300 by 300 bed. And it makes a considerable difference, especially for printing multiple objects, longer objects, or just larger singular objects. I do recommend considering a Max or a Plus if you're going to only have one or two printers and you might be printing larger things. If you're interested in printing smaller things, or you need multiple printers, these smaller bed printers cost considerably less, which would make it easier for you to get 2 or 3 of them, making the smaller printer possibly a better idea. Not to mention, it has a much smaller footprint to fit better on your desk. Let's get building. One of the things that Creality talks about is how it's 96% pre-assembled. That's right, it claims there's a 6-step build process. Now, looks like more than 6 steps to me, but let's find out. Ironically, the manual shows 5 steps, with the 6th and 7th step involving leveling, and the 8th step involving loading filaments. So let's see if we can build this in 5 steps, shall we? Okay, the first thing it tells us to do is to attach our Sprite motor. To do that, you're going to need to find this clamp. This is the wire clamp. And of course, you're going to need your Sprite direct drive extruder. In case you didn't know, this shiny fan part is the front. It'll be mounted on your printer like this, with the nozzle underneath right there that does the printing. To install your Sprite extruder, lay this down and face your Sprite extruder upward. You'll notice the fan and the word Ender. You'll notice here on this mounting plate there are 2 little lumps, and in the back of your Sprite extruder there are 2 little holes that match. We are going to line them up. You'll feel them slip in, and you'll see that the extruder is snugly in place. You are going to use 4 M3/6 screws that look like this. Now, you should be able to gently move your print head back and forth. Now, you're going to take your 4 screws, look for the 4 holes on the side of the Sprite, and gently, loosely put the 4 screws in. Once all 4 of these screws are loosely in, take the tool that came with your printer, stick the long end in, and just snug them up. Don't over tighten, just firm. Whenever you're tightening a pattern like this, I recommend not going in a circle, but going in a star. So starting here, next one here. So, one corner, next corner, next corner, next corner, because corners affect opposite corners. Now the print head is affixed, we are going to add the wire clip. Okay, now you're probably looking at your instructions going, I can't even read this. I don't understand where this clip goes. I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a tip. There's a little quality of life improvement using your tablet or your phone. Take it, put it over the instructions, take a photo, and then expand that photo. Now, look how much clearer the instructions are than they are in the manual. which is just this tiny little square that you absolutely cannot see. Looking at the blown up instructions, you'll see that you need to stand this up. So you're facing the side with the 2 screws, spot the side with the belt tensioner wheel, take your clip with the clip facing up, and just slide it onto the rail right there, just like that. Right there, just like that. Okay, I've got the instructions on my iPad Max by taking a photo of each step, which means I can just swipe through and look at each step in glorious 4K, high resolution, crystal clear, readable to my human eyes form, which is something I suggest you do as well. And our very next step now is to actually attach the entire top to the base. So let's get started on that. Here it is. You'll notice that there are 2 silver plates on each side of your printer with holes in them, and there are holes underneath this thing. We're just going to match them up and put the screws in from underneath. To do that, you're going to need 4 screws that look like this. We're going to work off our table, and we're just going to slide the printer off the edge of the table. Take our screw, reach underneath, and feed it up. If you have trouble lining it up, simply pick it up a little bit, push the screw through the hole, and then line it up to the hole on the top, and get your turns going. Again, a couple of loose hand turns will get you started, and we'll do the tools after. Next screw. Once you're down here on your hands and knees and all 4 screws are in, take your tool, stick the long end in, and just snug it up real nice. Again, we're not going to snug it up all at once. We're going to snug them up a little bit, all 4, and then we're going to snug all 4 up a little bit again until they're acceptable. When you get your printer, don't assume Creality or whoever you bought it from installed things properly or assembled things properly. So check everything out. When you see screws like this, stick your tool in. Make sure they're firm. Make sure they're not loose. Don't trust any pre-work that was done before you got it. You assemble your printer, not the previous owner. Got it? Okay, next up is to install the screen mount, which looks like this. You'll see there are 3 holes on the side here, and they match up to 3 holes on the right side of the printer, which are right here. And we're going to use 3 screws that look like this. Insert the long end of the tool into the screw. Feed it through the plate first, and then get it started in the hole. That first screw will help hold that thing in place, so the next 2 should be easier. Just put your finger over it like this and get it in there. Don't be afraid to tilt your printer a little bit. It won't cry. And do the same thing with your finger for the 3rd one. It'll look like this. That top right screw is a little tough. You gotta get the right angle because there's a hole in the aluminum framing. You need to line it up just right so it goes through that threaded hole in the aluminum framing as well. But there you go. There's your screen mount right there. For those of you keeping count, this is like step 3 of Creality's advertised 6-step building process. But this is a very exciting step right here. Now it's time to install our control screen. This is the kind with the knob. The S1 Pro comes with a touchscreen. There are touchscreen upgrades available for other printers. I do prefer the version with the knob. There are various reasons for that, one of them being more third-party firmware options. If you look behind the screen, you'll see these 2 nubs. And if you look at your screen mount, you'll see 2 slots that look just like these 2 nubs. You'll also see this data port. We're going to take the cable that's sticking out the back here, and we're going to plug it in to this data port. You'll notice it's keyed. In other words, there's a notch, so it only fits one way. Slip it towards the top, and then stick the notches in, and push it down firmly. There you go. Your control screen is in place. Next up is our filament spool holder and the runout sensor. We're going to move the filament sensor out of the way. We're going to take this clip here, turn it over, and then line it up in the front and fold it back. Just see it snap into place. Now you can take your filament runout sensor and just gently fold it over the front for now. Now, you might be like, hey wait, Mr. Adventure. The instructions show the filament sensor on the other side and the handle like this. Well, you'll notice that there are screw mounts on both sides, so you can mount the filament sensor on either side. This is also where the runout sensor data cable is on my printer. So look for this data cable on your printer and install your runout sensor on that side. To do it, you simply take one of these screws, the kind with the grippy end, and put it through your runout sensor's little floppy part here. Use the tool that came with your printer, put it on so it stays put, and screw it in the front of your printer right here. Then turn it so that the data connection faces the data cable and connect the data cable. It's keyed, so it's only going to fit one way. You'll notice there are two notches here and here, so the cable only fits in this position. Once your filament runout sensor and arm are on, you're going to take the filament spool holder arm, simply push it in and turn it until it stops. There you go. Now your filament spool holder is in place. I would then gently touch this and slide it over a bit so that the spool and the sensor are centered in the machine, because this is a direct drive, so your filament's going into the runout sensor, straight down the printer, directly to your direct drive Sprite hot end. That way the filament is in the middle, and as it moves back and forth with the hot end, it's coming from the center rather than from all the way over here and having to really be stretched out. And there you go. Your printer is starting to look like something. Okay, now to install the electronics. This part is surprisingly easy. You'll notice this panel in the back, and there's some cables right here. They only fit one way, and they only fit one size. So look for the notches on the slot and the notches on the cable. Line them up and just gently work them in. Don't be afraid. Make sure they're snug. You won't hurt them. Don't be overly rough either. Find the balance and just get them in there. So there's your two cables. Next up, you go to the back of the machine where you're going to find the hot end electronics. The size of this cable, huh? And plug this cable into the Sprite hot end. Be very careful. It's notched. It only fits one way. Look for the matching notch in the plug. You'll notice there are two little fangs. You push them outward, kind of like an old school memory clip if you've ever installed RAM on a computer. Open them up. You'll notice these two clips right here, and you'll notice this little protective shield right here. And just slide this under there, and now you see that it's underneath those clips which keep it in place. Take the cable, gently line it up with the pins in the notch, and push it down. You'll see that the two fangs actually came over it all by themselves, and it looks like this. Remember that cable clip we installed way back in step 1? Well, now it's going to come into play. Follow this cable going into the Sprite extruder, and you're going to find this label. Take this label, which says, and I quote, "Get the black positioning label of the flexible flat cable stuck at the line claw." Okay? And take it and slide it into that section right there. You'll see that the graphic matches the clamp. The reason this is super important is because this cable that runs the Sprite hot end has to reach all the way across this gantry. So you'll see when I push it to the right, when the cable stretches out, it has to be able to reach. If you clip this on too short, say over here, you'll notice that it can't reach. So you have to clip it where they tell you so that it can reach back and forth. Now, let's swing around the back of the printer. Right there. You see this little cable sticking out? And there's your stepper motor right there. Again, it's keyed. You're going to take this little cable and push it into your stepper motor. That runs your stepper motor. There's one on the other side. Mine was already installed. Double check yours. Make sure yours is already installed. Because if you don't have both, then it's not going to work right. Now, if you just swing around the side here, you'll notice there's one more wire to connect. Just peek underneath, and you'll see it hiding right there. And that is your stop switch. This switch right here tells the machine when the hot end is as far left as it can go. So I'm going to plug this in and power that switch. There you go. That's all. Okay guys, this is very important. Do not turn your printer on. Turn your machine around and find this window. Get a light and look inside. There's a red switch. If it says 230, that is the wrong voltage for US use. You need to push it to the right till it says 115. So you're going to grab the sticker right here and peel it off. Take this tool, reach inside, and push it over. Now it says 115 and it's safe to use. And there it is, the Creality Ender 3 S1 3D printer. You are watching Greg Adventure. I'm Greg, your instructor at 3drundown.com. And this Ender 3 S1 3D printer build was today's adventure.